If we compare the animal animation from Season 1 to now what we're seeing in Season 3, it's really night and day. You never thought you'd get to see tigers and deer and wolves animated to such glory in Golden Kamuy, but look at how far they've come. This was another great episode of Golden Kamuy. We get an unexpected backstory last week. I was honestly expecting that backstory to maybe carry over into episode 10 of season 3, but we kick back off to the modern day, the present day, and we're following in the footsteps of obviously Asirpa and her crew as we do a prison break. And the prison break was once again, I think, just another brilliant use of tactics in Golden Kamuy. I mean, the episode starts off with hunting and basically trying to get some food, some pelt, things like that. And you have very interesting tactics like that, like throwing a spear and then basically using it like a sled to carry it so the animal doesn't hide away in the ice water. There's a lot of fun little tactics that happen around every corner and every way you look of this show. But the idea of the prison break and how you drill in these holes and you cover it up with snow, and the idea that it's going to be faulty, it's not going to be foolproof, so only a few of the detonations will actually go off at a time and you'll have to figure out a new way to bust open a hole so everyone can escape. The whole idea of basically doing it at the crack of dawn, so when all the fishermen are out there, you can kind of escape and they'll assume, oh, they didn't go that way because clearly those are just the fishermen, we gotta go this other way. As it's the most risky way, there's no way they would cross this kind of ever-breaking ocean. There's always just something interestingly complex happening, but it never takes itself so seriously to the point that you lose track and you say, oh, there's too many smart things going on at any one point and it's just hard to follow. No, the way they break it down is it almost feels like because we have children in the cast, the way they explain things is children can understand it. So the viewer watching is like, oh, that actually logically makes sense, but you could teach someone like Asirpa how to do this and things like that. It's just a really great episode that also kind of reveals the big mystery about what's in her mind, something that only she would know. And I think, honestly, the thing that was last on my mind is the name. I thought his name was Wilk, but the idea that the only people who know the name that was given to him by his wife was him, his wife, and obviously Asirpa. And apparently, she's not allowed to tell anyone. And I firmly believe she will live to that promise. She will not tell anyone in that group, but you have characters already very, very suspicious of her reaction, and yeah, things are gonna get bad. Granted, we have 2 episodes left to go. Sugimoto has reunited at least with one person who just got saved by the dick necklace to then almost fell to his death, but luckily he was in time and was able to save him. And so there's a bit of allies going on there, but I firmly believe that with the idea of her probably going to keep this information to herself and the pushing of we know you have information, some will be a little more pushy than others, but I feel like we're going to see a very hostile situation that Sugimoto could walk into. And if he sees anything like someone grabbing Asirpa, shaking her down for that information, or putting her in an uncomfortable situation, I could see blades or guns being drawn, and I wouldn't be surprised if Season 3 ends on a big death. Do I think it'll be Sugimoto? No, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone else does die in this cast before the season wraps up. If they don't, and she just gives up the information, I'll be shocked, but I think there's room to work with that plotline as well. So it's very fascinating because I never really knew what the map was being built off of and what it would mean. And there's been hints ever since she started being asking questions about what certain things mean. And it seems like if you know his name, that's how you'll be able to decipher the code and where the treasure ultimately leads. And that's really interesting to me. Wilk as a character is someone who I think is quite fascinating. He might be the most fascinating character in this show just for the shroud of mystery and how everyone who knows him talks about him in very high praise. The idea that he's the type of character who's basically a wolf. He's someone who was admired wolves at such a young age. He's someone who saw this one lone wolf, and when it howled to its wolf pack, the wolf pack came, said it was too frail, and killed it. And then he admired to be a wolf. He wanted to be a wolf because those are the type of species of animals that they don't have emotions. They're pure logic. If you don't aid the pack will kill you. So him being, running away with his group, and one person who's already on death's doorstep slits his throat so they won't be found out. He was going to die anyway. It's very much in line with the whole wolf pack. You see this before the actual backstory with him as a kid. And it really does put into perspective that he's the type of person who cared, but he also didn't. He clearly had love and compassion for people, but those who were very, very close. But I firmly believe that anyone who would throw him under the bus, make it so he would have a harder time at surviving, it seems like he's the type of person who would not hesitate to slit a throat and not show a reaction. But clearly, once he really became a family man, that obviously changed quite a bit. So that's interesting to me. It's very fascinating to see a character like that be admired by so many, and you would generally think that's not the type of person that would invoke that much confidence, but in a world like theirs and what they've went through and experienced, it's understandable why a leader like that would be so admired and revered. And it really is quite fascinating to see the difference in Wilk's behavior versus Sugimoto's, and it's going to be interesting to see which one she'll want to admire and kind of go towards the most. Because by all rights, I would personally say Sugimoto has acted as a father figure and a father role for her for a very long time. So I'm curious who will have the biggest influence on her. Will it be Wilk? Will it be Sugimoto? Will it be a bit of both? It's hard to say because growing up, that will shape your beliefs as an adult and a teenager and things like that. It won't be the final, the one decide-all thing, but it will define you quite a bit. So the way these characters are talking about Wilk and learning about things, I'm wondering if that will shape her quite a bit into being someone who could slit a throat to save her own life, even if maybe that's not what characters like Sugimoto would currently do in right now in terms of how he's acting and how he's feeling, because he is a lot more passive than where he used to be. I think if you kind of look at Sugimoto's behavior and how Asirpa's been this kind of like this taming medication to him, you wouldn't think Sugimoto would be the immortal Sugimoto, this raging lunatic that would do anything to get her back. But at the same time, it just feels like we're building up to someone doing something to her that's going to set him off, and I think he'll kill someone. Granted, that could be mindless speculation and a red herring, but still, it feels like something big is brewing, and I'm not sure how season 3 is going to end. It does feel like it's probably going to end in the biggest way possible for having these characters separated as long as they did. It feels like something insane's about to happen, but honestly, from the animal stuff, the hunting, and the idea of a tiger coming bursting through, the traps and the intriguing tactics and setup, there's a lot of things that were complex about the episode, but it never felt too info dumpy. It never felt like we were just dropping information after information after information. No, it was all there to serve a purpose and make this a very strong and compelling episode of Golden Kamuy. I honestly have no idea how episode 11 and 12 are going to go, but it honestly feels like we're about to see the most intense situation pop up, and I'm really all for it. That whole snow sequence and the backstory when we're learning the actual name of Wilk, that is some of my favorite visual production that they did. The snow scene that I used for part of my thumbnail, I just think it's so Christmassy, it's so beautiful, it's so just natural. It feels so just angelic in a lot of ways. It's such a different contrast to what we're seeing over the episode. And to learn such a crucial piece of information and then to cut away to characters looking at her knowing that this girl knows something and no matter what, we will learn it ourselves. It's very frightening, and I think serves a great way of contrasting the peacefulness of that backstory to the insanity of the present day and how she has probably so many conflicting feelings. On one hand, these people seem trustworthy. On the other hand, my father said to never tell anyone. Who do I trust more? And with Sugimoto about to approach, there's a lot of uncertainty with what's going to happen with this information. By all means, she could explain and say everything, but then will they abandon her because they no longer need her? Or is Wilk's memory so strong that they'll keep taking care of her? It's very difficult to say, but that's what makes this episode, and I think the journey of Golden Kamuy so intriguing, is even when you think you know where it's going to go, you actually never do. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on this week's episode, your favorite moment, and where do you think it might go next week? If you enjoyed the video, of course, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.